The Art of Worldly Wisdom, Baltasar Gracian. See that things end well. Some regard more the rigor of the game than the winning of it. But to the world, the discredit of the final failure does away with any recognition of the previous care. The victor need not explain. The world does not notice the details of the measures employed, but only the good or ill result. You lose nothing if you gain your end. A good end gilds everything, however unsatisfactory the means. Thus at times it is part of the art of life to transgress the rules of the art, if you cannot end well otherwise. Prefer callings and evidence. Most things depend on the satisfaction of others. Esteem is to excellence what the zephyr is to flowers the breath of life. There are some callings which gain universal esteem, while others more important are without credit. The former, pursued before the eyes of all, obtain the universal favor. The others, though they are rare and more valuable, remain obscure and unperceived, honored but not applauded. Among princes, conquerors are the most celebrated, and therefore the kings of Aragon earn such applause as warriors, conquerors, and great men. An able man will prefer calling and evidence which all men know of and utilize, and thus he becomes immortalized by universal suffrage. It is better to help with intelligence than with memory. The more as the latter needs only recollection, the former vue. Many persons omit the apropos because it does not occur to them. A friend's advice on such occasion may enable them to see the advantages. 'Tis one of the greatest gifts of mind to be able to offer what is needed at the moment. For want of what may things fail to be performed. Share the light of your intelligence, when you have any, and ask for it when you have it not. The first cautiously, the last anxiously. Give no more than a hint. This finesse is especially needful when it touches the interest of him whose attention you awaken. You should give but a taste at first, and then pass on to more when that is not sufficient. If he thinks of no, go in search of yes. Therein lies the cleverness, for most things are not obtained simply because they are not attempted. Do not give way to every common impulse. He is a great man who never allows himself to be influenced by the impression of others. Self-reflection is the school of wisdom. To know one's disposition and to allow for it, even going to the other extreme, so as to find the juste milieu between nature and art. Self-knowledge is the beginning of self-improvement. There be some whose humors are so monstrous that they are always under the influence of one or other of them, and put them in place of their real inclinations. They are torn asunder by such disharmony and get involved in contradictory obligations. Such excesses not only destroy firmness of will, all power of judgment gets lost, desire and knowledge pulling in opposite directions. Know how to refuse. One ought not to give way in everything, nor to everyone. To know how to refuse is therefore as important as to know how to consent. This is especially the case with men of position. All depends on the how. Some men's no is thought more of than the yes of others, for a gilded no is more satisfactory than a dry yes. There are some who always have no on their lips, whereby they make everything distasteful. No always comes first with them, and when sometimes they give way after all, it does them no good on account of the unpleasing herald. Your refusal need not be point blank. Let the disappointment come by degrees, nor let the refusal be final. That would be to destroy dependence. Let some spice of hope remain to soften the rejection. Let politeness compensate and fine words supply the place of deeds. Yes and no are soon said, but give much to think over. Do not vacillate. Let not your actions be abnormal either from disposition or affection. An able man is always the same in his best qualities. He gets the credit of trustworthiness. If he changes, he does so for good reason or good consideration. In matters of conduct, change is hateful. There are some who are different every day. Their intelligence varies, still more their will, and with this their fortune. Yesterday's white is today's black, today's no was yesterday's yes. They always give the lie to their own credit and destroy their credit with others. Be resolute. Bad execution of your designs does less harm than irresolution in forming them. Streams do less harm flowing than when dammed up. There are some men so infirm of purpose that they always require direction from others, and this not on account of any perplexity, for they judge clearly, but from sheer incapacity for action. It needs some skill to find out difficulties, but more to find a way out of them. There are others who are never in straits. Their clear judgment and determined character fits them for the highest calling. Their intelligence tells them where to insert the thin end of the wedge, their resolution how to drive it home. They soon get through anything. As soon as they have done with one sphere of action, they are ready for another. Affianced to fortune, they make themselves sure of success. Utilize slips. That is how smart people get out of difficulties. They extricate themselves from the most intricate labyrinth by some witty application of a bright remark. They get out of a serious contention by an airy nothing or by raising a smile. Most of the great leaders are well grounded in this art. When you have to refuse, it is often the polite way to talk of something else. Sometimes it proves the highest understanding not to understand. Do not be unsociable. The truest wild beasts live in the most populous places. To be inaccessible is the fault of those who distrust themselves, who honors change their manners. It is no way of earning people's goodwill by being ill-tempered with them. It is a sight to see one of those unsociable monsters who make a point of being proudly impertinent. Their dependents, who have the misfortune to be obliged to speak with them, enter as if prepared for a fight with a tiger, armed with patience and with fear. To obtain their post, these persons must have ingratiated themselves with everyone, but having once obtained it, they seek to indemnify themselves by disobliging all. It is a condition of their position that they should be accessible to all, yet, from pride or spleen, they are so to none. 'Tis a civil way to punish such men by letting them alone, and depriving them of opportunities of improvement by granting them no opportunity of conversation. Choose a heroic ideal, but rather to emulate than to imitate. There are exemplars of greatness, living texts of honor. Let every one have before his mind the chief of his calling, not so much to follow him as to spur himself on. Alexander wept not on account of Achilles dead and buried, but over himself, because his fame had not yet spread throughout the world. Nothing arose ambition so much in the heart as the trumpet clang of another's fame. The same thing that sharpens envy nourishes a generous spirit.